Thanks so much for having me and for including me in this wonderful volume. It's not something that I saw in my future. So when it came to me, I couldn't help but, how can I say no? So thanks for allowing me to be part of this. Um, Several times in his life, a man has to take what he has been taught and join it with what he has learned through experience. And if he's lucky, he'll achieve a synthesis, a composite of life lessons that he can draw from and utilize. My story, Synthesis, which is part of a larger work, Walking to Jupiter, tells of one such moment in a man's life. And I'm just going to jump right in. When Zeke was 5, Hezekiah, his father, removed the training wheels from his bike. The boy rode around the block once, then promptly tumbled from it onto the sidewalk. With skinned knees, he scampered up to their apartment above the cafe they owned. His mother, Odessa, perched the sniffling boy on the toilet seat and applied peroxide with cotton balls. Her sweet humming filled the room as she gently cleaned his scrapes. They were there only a minute before his father came home from work for lunch. He squeezed into the bathroom and stood over mother and son. Without a second thought, he reached over his wife's head and handed a few toilet paper squares to the boy. Dry your eyes. Be a man, he said. You'll live. Now, Hezzy, he just fell off his bike. Yeah. Stern yet caring eyes met Zeke's. But you won't get the hang of riding that bike if you stop trying. So Zeke wiped his watery eyes. A few years later, at 8 years old, Zeke sat before an open math book on the dining table. I'm so stupid, I'll never get this. Odessa, cocoa face weary, hazel eyes sunken, had completed 2 years of chemo treatments, by then. She tightened the scarf around her smooth skull and turned in her chair to face her boy. Don't you ever let me hear you say that again. She closed her eyes for a moment, then opened them, and encouraged Zeke to try the next problem, subtracting fractions with different denominators. Hezekiah trudged through the front door a short time later, having completed the additional errands he'd taken on after his work shift. He took a deep breath, straightened his posture, and strode past the pair into the kitchen. He returned moments after with a refilled prescription for Odessa and a cold root beer for a frustrated Zeke. I know it's hard, he said, squeezing Zeke's shoulder. Zeke peered up at him. I don't want to fail the test on Friday, Daddy. He tried to suppress the misery in his voice. Hezekiah kept his tone steady, refusing to coddle. You'll lick those problems yet, son. Keep at it. And if you fail the test on Friday, then you just better try twice as hard on the next one. Be a man. His mother nodded her agreement. The dimple in her cheek winked at Zeke when he smiled. A year later, the cancer finally claimed her. 6 months after the burial, a squawking car alarm awoke 9-year-old Zeke from a spring slumber. His Mr. T alarm clock read 11:43 p.m. He got up, went to the bathroom, then to his dad's room to check in on him, a habit he had developed since the funeral. His father's bed was empty. Zeke ambled through the house, searching each room, but his father was nowhere within. The boy's stomach fluttered. He might still be downstairs in the coffee shop, but at this hour, Hezekiah always closed up at 8 p.m. sharp and was upstairs by 8:30 usually. So Zeke padded into the kitchen, entered the pantry, pulled back a set of shelves, which triggered the electric bulb that illuminated the 18 steps leading down to the first floor. He descended the staircase and reemerged in the hallway at the back of the cafe. He looked to his left. The shop was closed. The floodlights and overheads were dimmed. Gray shadows washed over chairs, stools, tables, and booths. The car alarm that woke him up in the first place squawked louder now, and he was on the first floor. Then the alarm abruptly shut itself off, leaving behind instant silence. A twinge of fright rose up in the boy. Thoughts of the movie Nightmare on Elm Street with Freddy Krueger wielding razor-sharp finger knives twisted in his stomach. Hezekiah would have told him, "Be a man. You know that stuff in the movies ain't even real." True, but the fact didn't stop his heart from slamming inside his chest. Besides, Zeke had never been left entirely alone in the building. Wiping sweat from his forehead, he tiptoed down the hallway toward the swinging doors that led into the kitchen. Porthole windows in the doors loomed over him, higher than his 50-inch frame. Still, he could see that the kitchen lights were on. The boy almost leaped back when he heard the whimper come from the other side of the doors. Be a man. He retrieved a Louisville Slugger baseball bat from a corner inside the stairwell, then returned to the swinging doors. He listened closely for a long moment, but heard nothing. He brought the bat up slowly and shouldered the doors open, keeping his body halfway in, halfway out of the kitchen. Zeke took in the rectangular island in the middle of the room. Dozens of scrubbed pots and pans dangled like ornaments from the contraption above it. His eyes swept the area. It was just like his father liked it, a place for everything and everything in its place. An industrial-sized dishwasher, triple sink, and eight burner stove lined the right wall. A countertop with small appliances stretched on the left, and dominating the back wall was the walk-in cooler with its chrome door. A sniffling sound floated from that direction. Zeke entered the room, circling the left side of the workspace. He paused to listen again. Almost a full minute went by in silence before he heard another sniffle. Zeke set his jaw. He gripped the handle and sprang from his hiding space, ready to swing like Hank Aaron. Hezekiah Miller Sr. was seated on a stone-tiled floor, sobbing. Would you like to know what happens next? Get the book. We'd love for you to have it. Thanks a lot.